I'll start. Hi everyone. Oh, and sirens, sorry. Hi everyone, it's so nice to have you all here. My name is Juanita Ferguson. I am a retention specialist for Seattle Promise, and I work at Seattle Central. And I will have the other people presenting go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi there, my name is Abbey Roth. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a retention specialist for the Seattle Promise program at North Seattle College, and I support students in the business and accounting area of study as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Milan. I use she, her pronouns, and I also am a retention specialist in the Seattle Promise program, serving students at South Seattle College, both in the business area of study and a couple of other areas as well.
All right, so to get us started today, we wanted to give a brief overview of what a transfer degree is, because we'll be talking about the Associate of Business degree in this session. And the Associate of Business degree is the transfer degree option for students that want to continue on and receive a four-year degree in business specifically. So to give you kind of a general grounding in the different types of degrees that are offered at the Seattle colleges, there are generally kind of two ways to think about a way to think about the two different degree types. So there's the professional technical degrees, which are designed to transfer you directly into the career or field that you're interested in. And these programs would typically focus more on hands-on skills and train you up for that career or job. Whereas a transfer degree would focus more on skill building and preparing you for the transfer process into the college or university program to study the same subject. So that's like the Associate of Business degree that we'll be talking about today. It's designed to transfer into business programs and schools at colleges and universities for the four-year business degree programs. So in terms of pathways to graduation, professional technical degrees and transfer degrees are generally a similar amount of time. Though there is some variation in professional technical degrees, they're often about 90 credits and approximately 2 years. And then after that, you would start your career. And a transfer degree is also about 90 credits. In fact, the one we're talking about today is 90 credits, and it takes about 2 years, depending on some additional preparatory coursework you may or may not need to take. And after you graduate with that A-B degree, you'll be able to transfer to a four-year college or university to finish the last 2 years of a bachelor's degree. And to look at that another way, here's a visual presentation of the different degree types and how they kind of stack together to form an educational pathway. So an associate degree, that is like the Associate of Business degree, for instance, is a roughly 2-year degree that you could earn at one of the Seattle colleges. And then once you earned that degree, that's something you could take with you to a four-year college or university and begin your bachelor's degree, which would stack 2 more, roughly, years onto your associate's degree and turn into your bachelor's degree, potentially in business, if you were working on the business pathway. And then once you have your bachelor's degree, some folks opt to pursue additional study in graduate programs, which can be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, so many years, depending on your area of study and your graduate pursuits.
Great, so there are a few different degree options for transfer students at the Seattle colleges. So the AA, Associate of Arts degree, which might be psychology, humanities, writing, it covers a ton of different pathways. The Associate of Business degree that we'll be focusing on today, the Associate of Fine Arts degree with more artistic endeavors, and the Associate of Science degree, which may cover biology, pre-medical pathways, engineering, for example. And all of these degrees are specifically designed for transfer to university or four-year college. So a lot of students say, okay, if I do the associate in business degree, what exactly can I do with that? And the intention of the Associate of Business degree, how it is built, is to prepare you to continue into a business program at a four-year college. And more specifically, a four-year college, usually in Washington State, is where it's going to transfer the most easily. A couple of other things to consider, in particular, if you are not necessarily sure if you want to go into a four-year degree program for business. I do hear many students that are interested in owning their own business and would like to do a business degree. You can think about how do the classes actually increase your skill set or knowledge base in that capacity, but also compare it to other degree options to think about how other degrees also relate to your business and increase your skill set. Another good thing to note is that economics programs can sometimes fall into a business school program, and many of the classes in the business degree are relevant, but very often an economics degree, if that is what you are interested in for your four-year program, it can also fall into a social sciences or political science program at your college. And so you may also want to consider an Associate of Arts degree where you can do economics and some business related coursework and then have more flexibility for the additional coursework. So again, the Associate of Business, if you see it says MRP, that actually stands for Major Related Program. So it is specifically to prepare you for the business program. And again, it was created in collaboration to help you transition into Washington colleges for their business programs. So some of the classes that we'll talk about, the prerequisite requirements for a business program at a four-year college can often include many of the programs in the business degree. And this will help you get those more smoothly and move into that program, but it can be a little bit different from college to college. So you do want to really kind of start from the endpoint of the colleges you are considering applying to and look at their prerequisites and see how it matches. Especially as well, if you are looking for out-of-state colleges that may have some slightly different requirements or how they transition. The program, as Abby mentioned, is going to be 90 credits, so about 2 years for students that may be placed into pre-college level English or math. You would be doing that in addition to your 90 credits. And then it's broken down into relatively 4 sections of requirements. So your basic requirements are going to be English and math. Distribution requirements are going to be some more general coursework that is not always going to be as related to business. You'll have some very specific business requirements and an elective space. And then another great thing to note is that the degree is offered at all 3 of the Seattle colleges with some different variations. So on our next slide, we are going to look at an example of the degree. But again, please make sure to note that this does not substitute for a specific advising appointment. You do want to make sure to meet with an advisor to make sure that you are really aligning to that specific college. Okay. So the basic requirements, again, are going to include your English classes and math. There are a couple of options of business-related math or general math that will apply. If you move into this next distribution requirements area, again, those are some more general coursework. Visual, literary, and performing arts are often going to be classes such as a language, art, music, communications, humanities, creative writing. The next section is individuals, cultures, and societies. You can see that there are 2 required classes here for Economics 201 and Economics 202. So those are required for the business degree. And then there's a 3rd spot that can be filled with something such as psychology, political science, anthropology. And then the next section is going to be natural world classes, All business students will end up having at least one math class here, one natural world lab science, such as biology, chemistry, or geology, and then another natural world that can be maybe environmental sciences, astronomy, biology, just as some examples. For all of these sections that I just mentioned, you have many, many choices. And then the next section is going to be business-specific requirements. So the business program does have an accounting series, Accounting 201, 202, and 203. Those courses are recommended to take during your second year when you have a bit more foundation with some other economics or business courses already on hand. And then there's Business 201, which is business law, and Business 210, which is like a business accounting and spreadsheets course as well. And then at the very bottom, you'll see there is a 5-credit elective spot. Many students say, what can I do for an elective? So let's say, for example, for your visual, literary, and performing arts, you take 2 communications courses and an arts course. And you're like, I'd really love to take another art course or a language that would also count as the BLPA. Since those spots are already taken up, the overflow moves down into your elective spot. So you can also do that with an ICS, natural world, math, anything else. Okay. And here, we did just go through a pretty complicated space. So I do want to check to see if there are any questions that are going to come in either through the chat or if you'd like to unmute. All right, I think we can go on to our next slide.
All right, so at Seattle Colleges, all of us advisors, retention specialists, anyone on campus, we want to make sure that you get the most out of your experience here at Seattle Colleges and your degree. We recognize that time is valuable as well as money, and so making sure that you start off well is really important to us. And so we've kind of created a transfer timeline just to give you a visual of what the next 2 years could potentially look like and what to keep in mind every quarter. So 0 to 18 credits, this is the time for students to choose and explore. It's okay if you don't know what you want to do. If you're interested in business, that's awesome. If you're not completely set on it yet, that's also totally fine. I ended up being a business major, but I changed my major a lot. So just want to say that that's normal. Not always a good idea, but it's normal. And so one of the things that's really important, especially during your first quarter, is to, one, talk to your advisor about what you're sure of and what you're not sure of, and also attend different transfer fairs. In a virtual world, it's a little bit different, but a lot of schools are putting them on, like UW and Seattle U are both offering like transfer sessions like once a week or once a month. And this is a great time to attend and get some of your questions answered or learn more about their program overall. And during your first quarter, you'll want to create your ed plan with your advisor. And so an ed plan is a great tool for us to help students plan out their 2 years. And if you end up dropping a class or something happens, we can just edit your ed plan together and just make sure that you're still on track. So that's what that's for. And then during your 19 to 44 credits, that's when you want to start making some more solid plans for your future. So if you are wanting to transfer and you have a couple schools in mind, it's really great for you to go ahead and meet with some of those four-year colleges and talk to them about maybe their program requirements, the admissions requirements, what classes do you need to take before you can even apply to them? What does your GPA need to be? Some schools only have like 1 year when they, not 1 year, but one time a year when they admit students. And so it's really important to know those specifics for every school that you're wanting or thinking about attending. And then for 45 to 74 credits, this is when you're going to finally start applying to those schools. So if you have a couple schools in mind, it's very important for you to make sure that you know what those deadlines are. If the application opens in November and closes January 1st, you want to make sure that you meet that deadline so that the following academic year or quarter, you're able to start at that school. Some of those schools are very competitive and they only admit students, like I said, once a year. So it'll be very important that you know what those deadlines are. And it's helpful to work with your Seattle College's advisor. We can help you kind of navigate that process, and there are different resources on campus to help you work on those applications. Most institutions require like a personal statement, like an essay, to get into college, and you can utilize different tutoring resources. There are different workshops that Seattle Colleges offers for students to get help with that. If you want someone to just read over your work, help with grammar, things like that. And then, so last, your 75 to 90 credits, that's when you finally get to transfer. And if you've completed all of the specific requirements for the Associate of Business degree at Seattle College, then you'll be able to apply for graduation and be awarded a diploma from us. And then you can obviously move on and continue at another school. And one of the big things is you'll have to send your official transcript from whichever Seattle College you went to, whether that was North, South, or Central, to the university that you're applying to. So this will be all of your classes that you've taken throughout this time, and they'll be able to see that you've met their admissions requirements and that you're on track. And so, you know, a lot of times I meet with students and they're like, well, where can I transfer with this degree? You know, where can I go? And the answer is great. It's very overwhelming, but you can go anywhere. So if you want to stay in the state of Washington, if you want to move on to a different state, you have those options. Sometimes out of state is a little bit more challenging just because they have different requirements than we do. But that's when it's really important to let your advisor know that so that we can kind of help you navigate what those differences might be. And I kind of went over most of this. So I feel like I see someone with a raised hand. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. About the credit, as an international student, I was planning to opt for the OPT, the optional practice training. And I was wondering when is the right time to contact the university where I want to go after. Should I apply for the university after completing the OPT or before the OPT?
Alex, do you know about that program?
So I will admit that I do not work with international students regularly, so I don't have an answer to this question in particular. So my recommendation would be to connect directly to the international advising to get their advice on this in particular. I will give a minute in case we do have any staff member that's joining that does have a more specific answer to this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking. I'm sorry we didn't have a more specific answer.
So that leads us to our Q&A. Hopefully we are able to answer any questions that you have. We're 0 for 1 right now, but we're more than happy to try.
And since we are a smaller group, feel free to just come off mute if you have a question, or you can type it in the chat if you prefer, and we can answer it that way.
Perhaps as well, before we ask for extra questions, we can say a thank you and close the recording, and then can continue for our Q&A.